Chad Prather. To the stage first. And we'll give each candidate, when they come up here, 1 minute to introduce themselves. So keep on that time.
Hey, bud.
How are you doing?
You said 1 minute?
1 minute.
It's going to be me, guys. My name is Chad Prather. And for those of you who know me, I get to run my mouth for a living. I've been in political media doing political humor for a lot of years. Some people introduce me as an internet sensation, which is just a 21st century way of saying I'm unemployed but I'm popular. And I'm thankful for the state of Texas. I'm thankful for God's providence in the state of Texas. I've been fortunate enough to be have my life, which I consider a seed, to be planted into the great soil of Texas, and it's caused a lot of success for me. And in 2020, I realized that our constitutional rights were being trampled on, our liberties were being taken, and so I threw my hat in the ring to primary this governor in the 2022 primary. It's been a blessing to me to travel around the state of Texas and see that the spirit of Texas is still alive, although I believe our future with the direction we're going with big government is absolutely untenable. My name is Chad Prather, Prather2022.com. Looking forward to spending time with you tonight.
Thank you. And now we've got a surrogate for Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, Gina Van Dyke, who is the Regional Director for Allen West campaign. She's a native Texan who's deeply concerned about the future of Texas, and she's joined the Allen West campaign as a concerned citizen who wants to secure Texas and its values for future generations.
Hi, thank you. We go way back. Thank you for allowing me to be here. It's just sort of ironic and somewhat comical to me that I'm going to stand in for Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. As many of you may or may not know, he is a warrior and a leader and quite a force, and I am just thrilled to be here. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to read, just because I want to make sure that my words are correct. Lieutenant Colonel Allen B. West is a Christian, constitutional conservative, combat veteran, and former member of the U.S. Congress. His life has been defined as one of service, sacrifice, and of course, and commitment to the Republic of the United States of America. He believes it will be a conservative, free market policies, not politics, that secure a sound economic future for Americans with growth, opportunity, and returning the promise of the American dream for this generation and those to come. So as we said, I'm here as a concerned citizen, and I hope it's, again, I'm saying this humbly, it's an inspiration to all of you who are here tonight that you can do something. Thank you.
Thank you. And go ahead and hold on to that. There's some seats down here. We'll do questions. I want to also note that while not on the stage tonight, we've got Dylan Hannigan, who is manning a table for Don Huffines, who's also a candidate in this race. First question, we're going to try to keep the answers to 30 seconds so we can get some of them in here, so we've only got a few minutes. First question, Supreme Court recently put a hold on some of the vaccine mandates for workers. The governor, right now, the incumbent governor, Abbott, has been looking towards the courts on how he's going to respond to this. Do you still believe that it's necessary for a fourth session of the legislature to be called?
Absolutely. The executive orders that the governor's written are worthless. They're not worth the paper that they've been written on. Unless you pass it through the legislative session, then what you're going to have is more dictatorial, unilateral decisions being made on the part of this governor. We've got to make sure that it is law in the state of Texas that employers cannot mandate vaccines, and that includes even on the federal and even the global corporate level. We've got to make sure that we pass legislation with teeth on it. And when I say teeth, that means we've got to penalize those companies that are penalizing our Texas workers. So for instance, you want to say American Airlines. If American Airlines is going to penalize somebody by giving them 2 weeks off without pay until they get a vaccine, then we're going to penalize American Airlines $25,000 a day per employee.
30 seconds.
That's 30 seconds. There it is.
Sorry.
I get to preaching.
Allen West will be the first to tell you that medical freedom begins with you and your body is sovereign. There is no one that should tell you what to do with your body, and to quote the left, my body, my choice. A governor does not have the right to govern your body. We have legislative laws in place. There's a process that is in place, but that is a decision that you and your family should make for you and your family. No one has the right to dictate the sovereignty over your body but you. You are a sovereign individual. He's very pro medical freedom. And for more information, you can go to west4texas.com. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question we got sent in here. Obviously, a very big issue in Central Texas, big issue across the state is the electric grid. What could you do as governor, or what could Alan West do as governor, to help secure the electric grid?
We're going to alternate.
Sure, yes, we'll start with you.
So the first thing is, again, Alvin West is pro-energy freedom, and the first thing we have to do as a state to secure our grid is to stop subsidizing unreliables. That includes wind and solar. I don't know if you're aware that wind energy cannot be stored, right? So when it doesn't work, you're still pulling off the grid. The city of Georgetown had a big problem with that, but we all did last winter, as we saw, and there was even a death that resulted. We were 4 minutes and 52 seconds from looking like North Korea. There's no excuse for it. But if you're giving away free hamburgers in the forms of unreliables, as opposed to reliables, you're gonna have a problem. Thank you.
Check.
She's almost as good as Alan. Good job. Hey, absolutely. One of the things that we've got to do is remind ourselves that we are a global leader when it comes to energy and power. We've got to stop apologizing for what's made us great. We provide 40% of the nation's oil, 26% of the nation's marketable natural gas. We're the number 2 producer of lignite coal. Our coal plants are shut down, natural gas plants are shut down. What we've got to do is make sure that these grids are winterized and that they're turned on. It would have been nice last February when your power went off and you were seeing your breath inside your home. We could have turned the coal plant knob up and it would have been toasty inside. I'm all for green energy as long as green energy stands on its own 2 feet. We've got to stop subsidizing, bailing them out from taxpayer money.
Excellent. One more question real quick, because we got this a few times. What's your opinion on whether or not gambling in casinos should be legal in Texas? Starting with you, Chad.
I always say that when it comes to things like that, we've got to realize this is the 21st century and there's going to be demand on the state because we know that other states are doing it. There are people who want it and they look at it as new revenue streams. What we've got to do is ultimately make those decisions with the power of the people. If you want to put it on the ballot, then you're going to determine with your legislators as the delegated representatives that that's what you want on the ballot. I, as governor, am not going to stand in the way of the will of the people. If that's your priority, then we'll allow it, but I want to make sure that when we do things like that, we do it the right way, learning from other states on how to do things and what not to do as well.
Alvin West would actually have quite similar response in that, yes, it needs to go on the ballot. But I would venture that he is not super pro legalizing gambling in the state of Texas, and you can use his website for that.
So now both of y'all will have 1 minute to give a closing statement. If you want to start off, Gina, for all today. Closing statement.
There are several issues facing the state. It is a wonderful thing to see the re-enfranchised voter in the state of Texas. We have a problem. We have a problem with the current governor. Texans are grossly disenfranchised and grossly frustrated. There's no reason why we cannot secure the border. There's no reason why we're letting the federal government run this state. I joined Alvin West's campaign because I wanted a leader. He faced a court-martial. 22 years as lieutenant colonel, he faced a court-martial, and I'll let him tell you that story. And he said, at the end of the court-martial, his career was in jeopardy, 22 years. And they said, would you do this again? And he said, I would go through hell with a gasoline can to save the lives of my men. And that is the man I want for governor. That is the man I'm voting for. Thank you.
I do believe the spirit of Texas is alive and well. However, the Texas that you see is not the Texas that most Texans think it is anymore. We're in trouble. We have an untenable future. We have an uncontrolled open border. We know that property taxes are through the roof. We know that the energy grid is in trouble. Nothing has been done about that crisis. We have many, many other issues. Our spending has been increased by 19% while population growth has only grown by 5.4%. That's an untenable spending future and it's not fiscally conservative. What I'm encouraging people to do is challenge this governor. Challenge this governor. I'm glad that there are men and women who are doing that. We've got to make sure that we not only hold their feet to the fire, but we ourselves are willing to put people in there who are outsiders and want to get government out of your life. You woke up September 1st with 666 new laws in your life. You don't need those regulations going on. You need freedom. That's what you need. Folks, let's go down to Travis County and let's have an Austin Tea Party. Because the tyrannical overreach that's happening has got to stop. And it's only going to stop by putting the right people in that want to get government out of your life. Prather2022.com. And a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving right along, see if I can do this. There we go. Lieutenant Governor. We've got two candidates here tonight running for Lieutenant Governor. And so first we are going to welcome up Tracy Bradford. Tracy, same rules apply, 1 minute introduction, and then we'll do questions afterward.
Good evening, I am Tracy Bradford. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. I am a wife of 33 years, a homeschool mother of 7, and a grandmother of 3. But I also have been a statewide volunteer. I led Texas Eagle Forum and Dallas Eagle Forum for over 10 years, gone down to the Capitol every single session, so much so that there was a bench down there that they said, that's my office, because we were down there to work pro-life, pro-family legislation. One thing I want to say, I feel like you, just as I see, our border is open, and that is not Biden's fault. That is because of the government that we've had that has let it be this way. We need to fight that. We have children whose identities are being stolen, and they're not taking care of this. Trust me, CRT is still in the schools, gender modification. We fought that 4 years ago, and they shut us down. There is also a grid that needs all hazard resilience, not just us telling, oh yeah, we're gonna weatherize it. Enough is enough, and I am ready to go down there and fight, and I don't owe anybody anything but the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Also here we've got Daniel Miller. Daniel, come on down. So you've got 1 minute.
Okay, super. Howdy. Oh, that won't do, Bastrop. Howdy. Howdy. Hey, I love that. Folks, my name is Daniel Miller. I am a 6th-generation Texan, a husband, a father, a technology consultant, and most importantly and most recently, I am now a candidate for Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Texas. And I will tell you that this is not anything that I ever saw in my future. And you can imagine why, right? We have to go to these events. We have to deal with a lot of spending from the incumbents. But let me tell you something. It's worth every second that we're spending on it. Because here's why. On August 24th, 1996, I made a pledge that I would see Texas as a free and independent state according to Article 1, Section 1 of the Texas Constitution, or until the grave digger was patting me in the shovel with a face. Or patting me in the face with a shovel, excuse me. See what's happening here, right? But here's what we know. We have a leadership problem, and I am running for Lieutenant Governor to solve that leadership problem, and that is a stop sign.
There you go. You can go and hold on to the microphone for now. We'll do questions here again, 30 seconds. A lot of people, when they look at the Texas House versus the Texas Senate, they would say the Texas Senate is probably the more conservative body. Given that, why did you decide to run for Lieutenant Governor instead of Texas House?
Well, look, there are 3 measures for whether the incumbent has done their job. Number 1, did they do what they promised they said they were going to do? The answer for Dan Patrick is no. He promised to secure the border. He promised to reduce property taxes. Didn't get it done, right? The second is, are they doing what's constitutional? Dan Patrick on multiple occasions has backed down when the federal government has threatened Article 1, Section 1, Article 1, Section 2, and many other of the Texas Bill of Rights. And finally, did the incumbent do what the delegates of the Republican Party told them to do? None of our legislative priorities were passed, and so he fails across all 3.
Same question for Tracy.
I want to start with the fact that we, the people, have sent them very specific priorities. And yes, sometimes they pass 1 or 2, and what they do is they water it down so that it is nothing compared to what we think it is. And I can tell you that the grid, year after year after year, they will come out and tell you he's passed legislation. I can tell you it's empty. And this is only one of many areas where they'll tell you one thing, and the truth is, if you read the bill, what they pass is not what they say they pass. And that's got to stop. We, the people, that consider the governed, that's what needs to be happening.
Texas has one of the biggest property tax burdens of any state. In 30 seconds, explain to folks how you as Lieutenant Governor would tackle that issue. Sorry.
It's like when they ask about the world reset in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Basically, to me, I don't understand why I pay rent on land that I own. We had talked about abolishing, we want to abolish the tax, it's wrong. And we want to do that by having a consumption tax. But look, we have a spending problem, and so I want to be real clear. If we do what they say and we go pay down M&O and the school is not, the school districts are not going to see that just as free money and go spend, splurge somewhere else, we've got to stop the spending problem in order for any of these property tax ideas to work.
Let's be clear, property tax is immoral. It's as immoral as an income tax. The fact that we have to pay rent to the government for the property that we own is immoral. You do not reform an immoral practice, you eliminate it and you abolish it, right? So the question is, how do we make that happen? Well, here's the good news. The plans have been floated in every legislative session since 2013 to eliminate the property tax. But because of a lack of leadership and a lack of will in the Texas House and the Texas Senate, you are still paying higher property taxes than ever.
Another question. There's been a big push in recent years, especially going to the next session, to legalize or decriminalize marijuana in Texas. What are your thoughts and your opinions as Lieutenant Governor on that? Starting with you again, Daniel.
Yeah, again, 30 seconds, right? It's a broad topic. So when we talk about legalization or decriminalization, what are we talking about? Are we talking about for recreational use, or are we talking about medicinal use? Because I think it has been clearly shown that there are medicinal purposes that help with things like PTSD for our veterans. We understand that that opportunity is there. So when it comes to whatever that degree is, I have to echo what Chad said. And it's Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution when it says that all political power is inherent in the people. This is a question that is ultimately up to the people of Texas. If you want it, you can have it, but when it comes to the vote, I'll vote no.
I'm going to be direct. I'm from Eagle Forum, and we have stood against legalizing any form of marijuana. I will say, I'm digging in on the research, and I do think we do need to put the vote to the people, but I would vote no. However, I also just had a really great conversation with someone about hemp and the difference between hemp and marijuana. So I don't mind being educated or having the conversation, but I do want to be honest, and it would be a no.
Starting with you again, Tracy, last question. Republican Party of Texas priorities. What are 3 of those priorities that you would really champion if you were Lieutenant Governor?
Secure the border. That means got to be first and first priority. We were just talking about the property taxes, but I also, for me, some of the legislation that's been very important to me that we worked upon is to protect children from gender modification.
Point blank, the Republican delegates made them all legislative priorities. They didn't say that some were more important than others. They sent them all so that Republican representatives would get them all passed. And they did not get passed, right? So that means we still have a border problem. Understand, June 6, 1944, 160,000 Allied troops landed on the beaches of Normandy in an invasion. But illegal aliens of that number and size cross the Texas border every single solitary month. We have to address the invasion, we have to stop gender modification of children, and we got to end taxpayer-funded lobbyists. Sorry. Thank you for not throwing things at me, I appreciate that.
We got 1 minute to give some closing thoughts, closing statements.
You're not going to dock me from that last one, are you?
Down.
Look, here's the bottom line. We got a leadership problem. So much so that the joke has become Austin is now Moscow on the Colorado. We have an incumbent that has been weak when it comes to pushing back against the federal government, who has substituted political expediency for principle, and we need strong leadership. I firmly believe that the next 100 years of Texas history are being written in the next weeks and months. What is history going to look at us and say? Are we the same stuff that those people that fought at the Alamo and San Jacinto, are we cut from that same cloth? Are we going to stand up for liberty? Are we going to pass down a Texas that is recognizable to future generations? That is the choice before us. I do not believe that we can move forward as Texas with the current Lieutenant Governor, and that's why I'm running. I understand Austin, I understand the legislature, but more importantly, I understand how much Texas means to all of us. And I would humbly ask for your vote, TexansForMiller.com. Thank you.
As I said, somebody that's been down in Austin working to get those priorities passed, I want to tell you that going across the state and meeting people, we just came in from Alpine, so we are going all across the state like I know y'all are, and I'm talking to people who know something's wrong. These are not people who've ever been involved. They vote, but they've never gotten involved, but they know something's wrong. And when I ask them, what is it? What's on your heart? What matters to you? Without knowing that we even have priorities or what a platform is, they will lay out the very things that are our priorities that we have given to the legislature to take care of. These are just your everyday citizens. We're on the same page. And one thing we've got to stop doing is thanking them when they give us our rights back. They're not theirs to take. We have to stop thanking them when they pass a bill that makes churches stay open. Nope, it should have been open the whole time. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to note that Todd Bolus sent his regrets for not being able to attend tonight. Moving on, right on to the next race, Attorney General. We've got here George P. Bush surrogate Eric Maroon. Eric, come on down, minute introduction, and talk about Mr. Bush.
Thank you, Brandon. It's a good time. Good to see you. It's been several years, an old friend of mine. It's a pleasure. Again, my name is Eric Maroon. I'm proud to be here on behalf of my longtime friend, Commissioner George P. Bush. I tell you, in the last several years here in Texas, we've seen an influx of migration from California. We've seen mass mandates, critical race theory being taught in school, and we have an attorney general who's facing a lot of legal issues. He's under indictment for 3 felonies, facing 99 years in prison. George P. Bush decided to step up and run, and as the only candidate is endorsed by the National Border Patrol Association. He's already sued the Obama administration. I'm sorry, Obama might as well be. He's the one pulling the strings. The Biden administration has already started finishing the Trump wall. Continuing the Trump wall on Texas land, and he's also going to tackle the. Stop. Okay.
That's okay. Well, you're the only one, so actually you can say right up. So there you go, you get that benefit. We'll do a few questions here. One of them came in. Is there anything that can be done to prevent or limit the amount of outside influence, California, Washington, New York money that can be channeled by lobbyists advertising into Texas to unfairly influence our elections?
Well, we can't control the money coming into Texas, but what we can do is secure our elections and stand firm to make sure there's no voter, what we saw in the last election with the mail-in ballots and everything going out. How long do I have for?
30 seconds.
Okay, so that's the main thing that we can do is double down and make sure we have secure elections throughout the state and not what happened a couple of years ago.
Another question that was sent in ahead of time. What legal actions can be taken to prevent Texas college or university professors from working with or working for companies that have ties, direct or indirect, to the Chinese Communist Party?
Oh, that's a good question. One I have to follow up with Commissioner Bush about, but that's something that he takes seriously, and that is a threat. We see a lot of Chinese companies. I mean, we're not against Chinese people. We welcome Chinese Americans here, but what we're against is the Communist Party trying to infiltrate Texas and build their companies here. So to answer your question, it's something that professors have to look at. Okay. Can I keep on going?
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, she's got to stop.
Okay.
What legal actions can be taken to protect Texas technology and other intellectual property from being stolen?
So I think that what the Attorney General's office could use is a department of good tech individuals that constantly look after that and prevent our systems from being hacked and funny business being uploaded. I mean, we see that constantly across the country right now. So if you get an office within the Attorney General's office to solely 100% go after hackers and people trying to steal our information, I feel that that's the best way to combating that.
Last question, what would you say is the biggest problem facing the Office of the Attorney General right now?
It could be a twofold. I mean, abuse of power right now. We saw a lot of good lawyers step down because they're claiming abuse of power with the Attorney General's office. I think not just with the office, but just statewide with our elections and the voter rolls and what we saw, what happened last time. There's a lot of funny business when it comes to the elections. I can go on and I can, just not one thing, there's so many, of course, the border issue right now.
And you get 1 minute, just so you raise 1 minute to conclude.
Okay, thank you. In 2018, what did we see? What they called the Beto wave, where he just came in and Democrats won a lot of offices. Out of all the statewide elected offices, our current Attorney General was the lowest vote getter out of all statewide. George P. Bush was the second highest, of course, the governor being the first. The Democrats are coming after this office. They really want him to be the nominee because they smell blood. New York City and all the Democrats are pouring their money to Texas. In 2015 and 16, I was blessed enough to be the deputy state director for President Trump on the campaign. And later on, I went on to be in administration. After, obviously, Commissioner Bush supported his father for president, but as soon as he dropped out, he came over to us, and we know how hard President Trump came after Governor Jeb Bush and also his mother. But, you know, what I saw in Commissioner Bush was his love and passion for Texas and the United States. He came over to us, raised us almost $2 million and said, hey, what can I do to help you get across the finish line to defeat Hillary Clinton in 2016? So.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate it. Also note here, we've got that Ava Guzman, another candidate in the race, sent her regrets for not being able to attend. Moving on to the next race. If you like numbers, you'll like this one. If you're good at math, we got the Texas Comptroller race. And first, I want to welcome up Mark Goldby to speak for a minute. Introduce yourself, Mark Goldby, everybody.
Good evening. My name is Mark Goldby, and I'm running for a Texas Comptroller. Basically, what I look at is the ability to bring good governance back to Texas. For 5 years, I fought Chapter 313. You've talked about high property taxes, you've talked about windmills, you've talked about all these other issues, all right? Do you realize that these windmills are getting 37.5% discounts on their property taxes? And it ain't coming free, it's coming from you. Somebody needs to lobby for the Texas taxpayer. Traditionally, it has been the Comptroller, all right? Susan Collins lobbied for the Texas taxpayer, all right? Carol Keaton Strayhorn lobbied for the Texas taxpayer. She even got rid of an agency, okay? The Comptroller of a company looks over the Treasury and the integrity of the Treasury. Who fills the Treasury, right? The taxpayers fill the Treasury. Somebody needs to be looking at the integrity of the Treasury and the taxpayers, all right? And that should be the Comptroller. And we can go through there and look at the ways that we can cut the budget, as we've heard from some of the other candidates. In cutting the budget, we can go through and look at how to pass that on to you as sales tax reductions.
Thank you. And now we've also got here the incumbent Comptroller, Glenn Hager. Glenn, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Glenn Hager, and I do serve as the Comptroller of Public Accounts. What am I? I'm a sixth-generation Texan who grew up on a family farming operations, been in the family since the mid-1800s. I'm a husband for 23 years, the proud father of 3 teenage children, and yes, even teenagers. I can say I'm proud to be their father. 3 wonderful kids. I serve as the guy that runs all these things. That means I manage a $126 billion budget. That's your money. Texas is the 9th largest economy in the entire world. Think about that. The 9th largest economy in the world. When I ran for this office originally, I was at an event like this, and somebody said, what is the one thing that's most important to be Comptroller? And I said, it's called character, integrity, and honesty. On that family farm, I learned that your handshake was your word and your bond. I work for the Texas taxpayers every single day. I decided to run for one more reason, one more term, because of Claire, Julia, and Jonah, which are my 3 kids. I have fought to improve our state's books, to make sure customer service, and fight every single day, and that's what I plan to continue to do, and thank you for your help and support.
Go ahead, hold on to that microphone. We'll
I can stand right here, stay a few seconds.
Yeah. The Texas legislature did not extend the Chapter 313 economic incentive program. Do you think that programs like Chapter 313 are a good use of tax dollars?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost thing is the tax dollars, are they put to your use? That's what they are. The last legislative session, I told my staff, we received some paperwork on the 313. I proposed changing some of that paperwork to make it streamlined. I realize of all the data that we have, I can pile so much data in here, you'll never see transparency. Transparency is critical and important, and it's about the right data and the right information. I told my team and staff and legislators that asked, the best thing was to let the program lapse, to let it expire. That's what they did last session, and going forward, that's the best way to handle it. Thank you.
Well, I'm intimately involved in Chapter 313 because I helped end it. One of the things that I found, all right, in that program was, hey, these companies create jobs. Yay, right? They create $65,000 a year jobs, right? Yay, right? Then when I went through and did calculations, yeah, we're paying them $200,000 to do it, right? The Chronicle did the math and they came up with $216,000. I don't know what kind of economic development program, right, pays a company $200,000 for a $65,000 a year job, right?
Go ahead, keep the microphone here, we'll switch on for our next question here, which is what percentage of the state's expenditures is debt service for the state budget? How about for county, municipal, and ISD budgets? I don't think they expect an actual number, but in other words, how much of total tax collections are used to pay down government debt, and is this a problem?
Well, government debt is a problem across the board in every which way that you can think of, from your cities and everything else. And one of the things that I look at, something that we all need to be thinking about as well, is on this last proposition, is that there was a item on there, I think it was 2 or 4, right, that allowed counties to take on more debt. And it passed across the state by 70%. So if we're going to be looking at debt, we need to be looking at all of it. We need to be thinking about what is our role in increasing that debt.
So to answer very specifically, the Texas Constitution prohibits any more than 5% debt. We're roughly a little under about 3.6%. Part of that, the question becomes, and I can really geek you out and make you so confused on what's going on, but part of that is either debt that is supported by our taxes, or that's debt that actually has a revenue source to be paid for. Most of it is not accounted for by tax dollars. Part of it has a revenue stream source. In fact, the actual number, each one of us has about $9,000 plus $9,300 is what's on each of us as taxpayers in the state of Texas, accumulated through all of the debt in the state. That's local and state government. The state portion is a very small portion of that. Most of that is local debt, to give you the exact number.
Next question here. You've served in the legislature before you were comptroller as well. Are there areas that you think the state legislature could go in and actually cut spending?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I believe in the Constitution. And I believe that, one, that means the judiciary is supposed to do their job and not be legislators. I believe the legislature's job is not to be the judiciary, and the executive branch is to do our job. And so the point being is, my job is to tell the legislature some goalposts, how to eliminate. We eliminated eight taxes when I got into this role the very first day. I have helped streamline how to do government every single time. I've made sure we can invest our economic stabilization fund or rainy day fund, because that's your money. We don't need to bury it under a mattress, and yes, we can continue to reform and cut the amount of government spending here in Texas.
Yeah, when you go through again, you're looking at what can be cut. Well, when you look at 313, you got $1 billion there, all right? That's almost 1% of the total budget, okay? And that's not going to government services, it's not going to government agencies, it's going to profits. It's going to profits for windows, and it's going for profits for other organization, capital projects across the state. So there, you've got $1 billion. And yes, I believe there's a lot that we can look at to go through and cut our budget even more from that. And by doing that, again, we could be looking at our stop time.
I'll let y'all each have 1 minute to go ahead and wrap up with your closing statements here. Starting with you.
Go ahead, yeah.
You got the microphone.
Yes, so yeah, this evening, I really appreciate y'all coming out tonight. It's great to see a crowd like this, especially on a drizzly, miserable evening like this, maybe by the fire. And my campaign is about good governance, all right? I've been for good governance before. I've been active in the Republican Party in many Texas conventions. So I have put things into the planks that I like to see. So it's about good governance. My website is www.goodgovernance.today. Goodgovernance.today. And that's what I'm hoping to bring to Austin. That's what I want to bring into the Comptroller's office, is a way that we can go through there and allow the taxpayers, all right, to get some burden relief, all right? We are doing burden relief. We're doing it on the sales tax, we're doing it on the property taxes, okay? And the legislatures are going to spend money, all right? That's what they do. We have a bucket that's filling up and it's overflowing, all right? And at this point in time, we can turn the spigot down. And we don't need to be filling that bucket as fast, all right, with revenue sources. And then we look at spending, cut that, and go on down the road.
Thank you for having the event tonight. It's great to be back in Bastrop County. I don't know about you, but every day in Texas is a good day. I'm blessed to be a Texan, and I'm blessed to be raised in the 7th generation of Texans. And every single day, I thank God for that. Texas is a special place. The question is what are we going to leave it in the next 5, 10, and 15 years? The leadership that you are picking this year in the election is extremely important of how we're doing business from here going forward. And thank you for being involved, engaged in this every single day. You're doing the most important part that you can to keep Texas a great place to call home. I have served in this role. I have improved the agency to make sure that it serves who? The Texas taxpayers. Every single day, I remind my 3,000 staff over 26 divisions, who do we work for? We work for the Texas taxpayers, and that's you. God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you. All right, man, I have to say, I'm a little surprised. I should be honored. Nobody has made the obvious "let's go Brandon" joke yet. It's usually what everybody does now. So I should give kudos for creativity right now. All right. Boy, this is a big race here. Our next race we're going to be looking at is Land Commissioner. Get that to next ton of candidates in that, and we've got 4 of them here tonight, so I'll go ahead and get started with this. Welcome up Rufus Lopez. Rufus.
Good evening. One minute?
1 minute introduction, yes.
What a guy. I'm Rufus Lopez. I come from a little further south from here. I live in San Antonio. I was born and raised in South Texas. I'm 5th-generation Texan. I don't know whether you get 7, but I'm 5th generation, and I still live at the ranch founded by my great-grandfather. I have my cattle there. I started a vineyard there. So that's what I do. But I want to tell you that I'm the only one here that you don't have to know anything about me other than one thing. I'm the only one wearing a Donald Trump tie. How you like them apples, right? Is that the 1 minute?
Thank you. I believe so, yes. We got our next candidate up here, Don Minton. Don, please come up.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I know there's a lot going on with the weather, the fires. I really appreciate you coming out. I drove up here from Galveston. I tell you that because I'm not a politician. I'm a guy that shows up and get things done. When Charlie Wilson appointed me to go to West Point, I showed up, I got it done. I was a battalion commander there, graduated at the top of my class. When Rick Perry appointed me to be a district court judge and try criminal cases on the border in El Paso, Texas, I did. I stared down drug dealers that came over from Waltens and I put them in prison. I got things done. 4 years ago, I was called upon to rescue a company that was bankrupt, a mineral extraction company. I did. I got to that company. A couple of years later, The company's worth more than $40 million. We negotiated successfully a deal with Occidental Petroleum, an oil and gas company. That's what's important, and that's what I bring to the table. Don mentioned it. Thank you.
Thank you. And just realizing right now, we got two candidates, Dr. John Spires and Tim Wesley, who did not end up being present. So just got the two of y'all, which is great. And I'll start off with the first question, which is one people talk about with the land office all the time, which is the Alamo. What, if anything, should the land office do with the site of the Alamo? Each have, one, if you want to grab the microphone over there, each have 30 seconds to respond.
Well, I'm from San Antonio, if there's anything I know, it's the Alamo. The budget has allowed $55 million for the renovation and purchase of other properties around the Alamo to bring it back and protect it and save its inheritance that we have for Texas as a result of that. I believe the Alamo is Texas. But I also will tell you that Alamo's not the only thing. We have Battleship Texas, Goliad, and San Jacinto. My office, as your land commissioner, will also look out for that.
Thank you. Same question.
As a veteran, historical places like the Alamo are near and dear to my heart. I had a profound sense of insignificance and loss when I went and saw the Battleship Arizona, when I walked the sand of Omaha Beach, when I walked the battleground of Gettysburg and saw the high water mark where Pickett's charge failed. When you walk out of the Alamo, if I'm the steward, you will cry and you will feel bad that you haven't done more for Texas liberty. You won't be thinking about going to Ripley's, believe it or not.
Thank you. If you want to stay up there, we'll go to you next here, switch off. What, if anything, can the land office do to help secure our southern border?
Well, look, I'm going to be real clear. You got a governor, and you got a lieutenant governor, and you got an attorney general. If they can't solve the problem, don't think that I'm going to magically do it. The important thing that you want me to do is to provide an alternate source of income for the state besides your pocket, before your tax dollars. That was something was said earlier about the only way we get money is from taxes. That's not true. This office negotiates deals with oil and gas companies on our Texas public lands, and that gives us funds. And if you want to keep your taxes down, put someone in office that knows how to negotiate with an oil and gas company.
Same question to you.
Thank you. I'll tell you again what I told others in other sessions that we've had since all this thing started. It began in Gainesville. Immigration is a global problem, but we have to find a local answer. The land office takes care of your children's and my children's monies for the permanent school fund. We cannot build the wall. We cannot spend a penny for the wall.
There we go.
And so your question was what?
That's 30 seconds, but you'll get the first question here. Maybe you can wrap it up in that answer too.
But what was the question?
Is there anything the land office can do to help secure the border?
No.
Okay. Next question. Land office obviously is very visible during natural disasters. Is there anything you think the land office can be doing better in those situations?
Absolutely. Preparation. You know, we're in Texas. We have a natural disaster at least once, twice, 3 times a year. We have them. It's a job of the Texas Land Office to prepare, get ready, and get everything possible. Federal funds, state funds, whatever needs to be done, taken out to our beaches, our Gulf areas, our citizens, our communities, and take care of them. And that's what we got to do.
Thank you. Same question to you, John.
Look, the most important thing is showing up, like Rufus and I did. You show up in natural disasters. You don't say, hey, this is my first time to Bastrop, right? I know your sheriff. I met him tonight. When the Colorado floods and there's federal funds, I'm going to introduce myself and remind him that we met. I'm going to have familiarity. I know this is Bastrop where the bull stops, right? This is not my first time here. You establish relationships with locals. You establish relationships with the feds, and you know how Austin works, and that's how you help in disasters. Thank you.
And go ahead and you can take this last question as well. We'll start off trying to switch back, keep it fair. Big criticism of elected officials from all levels is that a lot of times folks elect them and they go into office and they don't do what they said they would do. Why do you think that is, and why do voters trust you to follow through on your campaign promises?
I'll give you a perfect example. The current land commissioner allowed the federal government 2 weeks ago to claw back $2 billion in Hurricane Harvey relief funds because he was asleep at the wheel. He was running for attorney general. If I'm elected your land commissioner, I will not run for another office. I give you my pledge, and I challenge every other person in this race to do the same, and if they don't deserve your vote. Thank you.
It's called protection. The job of the land commissioner is protect our land, our Gulf, our development, our universities. We have 52 universities that the land office provides funds for. 52 universities and colleges. And that money is then channeled and allocated to the Texas Education Agency. So we have to be honest with ourselves and say, I work for the citizens of Texas. And to do that, you have to have somebody that's been practicing law 57 years or more, done every single oil and glass document.
Sorry, we will both have 1 minute to close, and you can start using that minute.
Okay, I can't see that far.
No problem.
All right.
1 minute to close, yes.
You ready for me to close?
Yes.
Yeah? All right. Well, look, first of all, I give you guys a card. In the back of the card is everything about me. In the back of the card is everything I'm going to do. It's very simple. I have coined a phrase that I want you to remember, and it's actually a wording. It says, AP Viagos, A and then a P and VIAGOS. That stands for the Alvin, the parks, the vets, energy, gas, oil, and schools. If you don't forget that, keep it in mind, because that's what I stand for. The veterans especially. We have only 9 veteran homes, nursing homes for Texas veterans. They're living longer. We've got to double it. We have only 6 cemeteries. We have to have cemeteries available. But I got one last thing that I'm going to run over because this is important. That's a key to my election. I want to create a statutory cemetery.
Okay, that's the minute. Thank you.
That's it?
And, yes.
You don't want to know what a statutory
We have to stay on
Well, let's
schedule.
take a vote and ask him if they want to know.
We have to stay on schedule, sir. Don, your minute to close as well.
Let me quickly say that I met Rufus about 3 weeks ago, and it's been an absolute delight campaigning with him. He's a true gentleman, a mentor, as he said, 57 years, so don't think for a second that there's not one very smart lawyer, because he really is. My wife reminds me when she watches me on video after these events, she's like, you sound angry. And I'm like, no, I'm not angry, I'm just passionate. I'm very passionate. This office is so important, and I don't blame anyone. I didn't know that much about it a year ago, but when I started looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, it's veterans that matters. It's natural resources that matters. It's the Gulf Coast that matters. I live in Galveston now. It's the Alamo. It's all the things that matter to us as Texans. It flows through the veins of our body, and it's epitomized in this office. So I'd ask, we don't have enough time, but I'd ask when you walk out tonight, just walk by that bright yellow sign, okay? You don't have to stop, just look at it. My wife made it. I want her to know that you all looked at it.
Thank you to both of you for taking a round of applause. Thank you. Moving on to the next race. I'm gonna be the bad guy. That's what you get when you're the moderator, I guess.
Give us one of them.
One of the, so the Agriculture Commissioner race, we're gonna move on to next. We've got Carrie Council here with us tonight. Carrie, if you could come on down and introduce yourself, give a minute introduction about why you're running.
Good to see you again, Brandon. I don't know if I need this or not, but I'm going to go ahead and grab it. First off, I want to take my hat off to the veterans. I'm a veteran, and I want to thank you. There were a lot of veterans in here, so thank you. We wouldn't be here for So, I am a veteran. I'm Senior Vice Commander of our Disabled Veterans in Washington County. I live right up the road up in Brenham. And everybody, if you haven't got one of my card's over here on this first table. I'm not going to go through this card. This is the political card. What I want to talk to you about is what's important to you. I'm not a career politician. I'm just like, if you look to your left, look to your right, I'm here about what's right. I'm a businessman. What makes me qualified for this? I've been with the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo 27 years, and if you can manage 1,500 volunteers at zero pay, that's like herding cats. So that's what qualifies me for this position. I run a successful business. I'm a professor of economics. I teach at Glenn College. Hell, I probably had some of your kids. I know I probably had some of your kids. So I do this because I care about Texas. I care about you. I am a farmer rancher. I've got about 500 acres. You're not supposed to ask a man how many cows he's got. I got 200 mama cows over here, and that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to note that Sid Miller has sent his regrets that he will be at the Bastrop GOP Club dinner on Tuesday, February 1st. Tickets online at bastropctygopclub.com. Okay, there's our little plug there. But going back to you, Mr. Council, similar question to the Land Commission office, which is there anything you can do as Agriculture Commissioner to clamp down on illegal immigration?
You know, I've been to the border a couple times, and one of the things that I'm hearing is they're tearing up our ranches, they're cutting our fences, they're busting our water wells, they're putting their cell phones, they're taking the water lines down, unplugging the water wells from the water lines, plugging their cell phones in them. We've got a huge problem. One of the things that does not directly affect the agricultural department, it's not part of the TDC, Texas Department of Agriculture, but what it does do, it gives you a voice to me. I am in Austin. When I get to Austin, I'm a voice for the people. I don't have a problem giving people my number. I will be a spokesman for the common everyday man. That's what I am. I'm a farmer and rancher and a professor.
What in your estimation are the biggest issues in the Agriculture Department that you would fix if you were in office?
That's a great question. The biggest problem is the Department of Agriculture. Commissioner. The commissioner. If you haven't seen it yet, his chief lobbyist was just indicted. He doesn't have any endorsements from any of the ag offices, Farm Bureau, Texas Southwest Cattle Raisers, Texas Cattle Feeders, corn producers, cotton producers. Where's all the agricultural departments? If you're head of the agricultural department, you should be out there and be responsible for this ag department. You got to be responsible for your constituency. It's a show of hands. Everybody in here should raise their hand. If you wear clothes, if you have leather shoes, if you have a purse, if you eat, you're involved in agriculture.
That's a good segue to my next question, which is, why should folks who live in more urban areas care about an agriculture commissioner?
Let me continue on with that. If you eat, you're involved in agriculture. So here we go with this. If you have a garden, if you have landscaping, my gosh, how much do you put in your landscaping? What happened last February? What happened to our the Snowmageddon? The water stopped, right? That's agriculture. What happens when you don't have food on your table? What happens if you don't have water to drink? That's agriculture. Agriculture affects every single person in this room. I'm disappointed that my competitors didn't, or my opponents didn't show up, but agriculture affects every single one of you in here.
What can the agriculture commissioner do about some of the rising prices we've seen in the grocery store? That's a question we get a lot.
Oh, you're hitting me as an economist now. I teach economics. You know, this is one of the problems we got. It's not that, if you're in agriculture, if anybody in here is farming and ranching, I've been doing it for 30 years, been raising mama cows. I'm a 5th generation rancher farmer. I've done this my entire life. Unfortunately, now we have to subsidize our farming and ranching. We're seeing the same price in the cattle industry, what we're selling our cattle for. We've been seeing the same prices for the last 10 years. What's prices down in the grocery store? The 2 biggest inflationary items that affects every single one of you is gasoline and your food. Gasoline's gone up 30%, your food has gone up 20%, just since Biden's taken office. So that ought to tick you off. I think use the wrong word. It ought to tick you off. What we can do is we can lower that gap, because what we've got right now is we're seeing the I don't have anybody here behind me. We're seeing the middleman is making all the money.
We'll give you a minute to finish up and give your
All right.
concluding remarks.
I mentioned to you that I'm a veteran and an Aggie. I didn't say I was an Aggie, but I'm an Aggie. Okay, so one of the things that's important to me is getting China out of Texas. Texas is your Texas land is being sold to China. Whether you know it or not, there's 2 states in the United States that's disallowed. Texas isn't one of them. Are we just going to follow Florida and follow these other states? That's what we've been doing for the last year. I want to see Texas be a #1 ag producer again. We need to secure the border. Everybody's talking about securing the border, but we also need to prioritize Texas agricultural products. Remember the Go Texan? Remember everybody here in Go Texan back in Susan Combs? What a great program that was. It's sort of been diluted over the years, but would you buy something that said Go Texan on it, you know it was produced in Texas? How about we go back to the Go Texan program, where if you buy something that says Go Texan, it's Texas? How about we do that? That's another one of my deals, and controlling inflationary spending and prioritizing the water rights. Here you are in Bastrop, no hipple, but we got the water rights. What happens if you lose your subsurface and surface rights? You got fires and everything around here. What happens if they take your water and ship it to Austin or San Antonio? We've got to prioritize our landowner water rights.
So thank you so much, Gary. Thank you. All right, our next. Tonight, Railroad Commissioner, and we're going to welcome up one candidate who's here, Mr. Dwayne Tipton. Dwayne Tipton, everybody.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm just going to warn you from the get-go, I'm not a great public speaker, so just bear with me on this, okay? So, the Railroad Commission, I don't know how much you know about it, but it basically is the exploration, production, and refinement of oil and gas. I've got 18 years of experience in oil and gas. I started out as a roughneck, and with lots of hard work and dedication, I was able to work my way up into management. You know, I started doing things that others weren't willing to do to get further ahead. With one of my last positions, I was a subject matter expert for the largest oil and gas insurer. So the whole purpose and my catalyst for running for this race is I feel like that our needs are not being met. My platform is Texas Families First, Texas Energy First, and Energy Independence. If you're not happy with what happened with the Winter Storm Uri, then you should definitely vote for me. We're a year down the road and we still don't have the problem solved or solutions to solve.
Excellent segue to my first question, which is about the winter storm last year, where many Texans were left out of power. What, if anything, could the Railroad Commission have done to help prevent that?
Well, the first thing, talking about it from when the storm was going on, if the incumbent had just picked up the phone and called ERCOT and implored to them not to shed the critical load of the natural gas infrastructure that produces more power, that would have been the first thing it could have done. Fast forward to where we are now, we can ensure that this stuff is winterized and weatherized. You know, 2 weeks ago, we had those cold temps where it dropped down to 25 degrees. We lost 25% of our natural gas infrastructure. We need people there that are gonna be solution-based and not pass the buck.
Another question, why, similar to the agriculture commissioner, why should folks who don't maybe live in right West Texas or an oil producing area of the state, why should they care about this race?
Well, I mean, this is one of the most important races in the state. It's a $7 trillion industry. $1 in $3 of Texas's economy comes indirectly from oil and gas. 1 in 7 comes directly. So it's often said, as oil and gas goes, so does Texas. So if you care about being cold on a cold winter's day, or you care about having good paying jobs, this race should matter to you.
The Biden administration is cracking down on, clamping down rather, on oil producers. What can you do as railroad commissioner to fight back against the federal government?
I mean, I'll start with everything possible. This guy is something else. I don't know if you saw this today, and you know, this is a little bit off topic, but bear with me. Today, he's reaching out to European powers, talking about ramping up U.S. energy and gas. I mean, what's he thinking? How about we ramp up our production, build our economy, create more jobs, make Texas stronger, make America stronger? Enough with the self-interest. We gotta do what's best for Texas and best for our families. And if you vote for me, that's what I'm gonna do.
So we'll give you 1 minute to do some closing remarks.
First, I want to thank you for having me. It's lovely seeing all of you people here. Really, it comes down to, it's time that the Texas Railroad Commission has a representative on the commission that has real oil and gas experience, that understands the industry inside and out, but more importantly, that's going to put your family's best interest at heart, going to put what's best for Texas at heart, not what's best for their pocketbook. I promise you, if you vote for me and you elect me, I'm going to winterize and weatherize the grid. I'm going to overhaul the inspection and regulatory arm of the Railroad Commission using big data analytics, trend-based inspections, so that we know what's going on in West Texas, so we know when there's a problem. Right now, the RRC is the last to know, and that's got to change. The other thing that I'm going to do, when we tackle these abandoned wells and the orphan wells, and we have to spend state money, I don't want to do that. But if we've got to do that, let's use that as a catalyst to put Texans back to work. If they want to plug a well with Texas, with taxpayer money, you've got to hire a certain percentage of unemployed Texans to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. Learn more about me on my website, Tip for Texas. Thank you.
Actually, one quick bonus question, 15 seconds. Why is it called the Railroad Commission?
Oh, man, come on. So basically, from what I've read, is that back in the 1880s, the railroad was the powerhouse in getting the oil to market. And so, as the railroad was coming through, that was about the same time Spindletop and other fields in East Texas were being found and brought to fruition. So if you controlled the railroads, then you controlled the oil fields, because that's how they were transported. Now, it's way more than 15 seconds.
There you go. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. I have to thank you so much.